every night, when he closed his eyes, he found himself in an old, abandoned house. This house, with its broken windows and doors that always creaked open and shut, resembled more a haunted dwelling than a shelter. At first, Arya thought it was just a nightmare that would soon be forgotten. But as days turned into nights, he returned to the same place every night. In his dreams, he wandered from room to room, each time hoping to find a way out. But every door he opened only led to another room filled with old, antique items. One night, Arya found an old diary in one of the rooms. Its pages were filled with writings in a strange and unreadable script. He decided to take the diary with him and study it when awake. But when he woke up, there was no diary beside him. The next night, Arya returned to the same room and searched for the diary. This time he managed to find it and immediately began reading. It was a story about a man who went to the same house in his sleep every night and could never wake up. Arya was terrified by reading this story and closed the diary. Arya, with a heavy heart and an anxious gaze, set out towards a house that stood in the distance. He passed through narrow alleys and deserted streets until he reached a point where buildings faded away, giving place to empty lands and vast deserts. The house of the old man, Adel, was hidden among ancient, withered trees and thorny bushes, as if nature itself had prepared to protect the secrets within. As Arya approached the entrance, he took a deep breath and pushed the heavy door handle. The door, as if it had been waiting for years for this moment, opened and invited Arya inside. The air inside the house was dense, filled with the scent of old books and dried herbs. Old man Adel, with a wrinkled face and eyes that seemed to have seen centuries, sat behind a table cluttered with maps, talismans, and strange objects. With a trembling voice, Arya began to narrate. Every night I go to that house, a house that seems to breathe, its walls whisper, and..." His voice choked up. Old man Adel, with a scrutinizing and studious look, gazed at Arya and said, "You are not alone. That house is the house of the dead, and you, unknowingly, have invited them." Hearing these words, Arya felt the world spinning around him. The old man continued, "But do not worry. I have a way to save you from this nightmare. But you must be prepared to pay a heavy price." Arya, upon hearing old man Adel's proposition, was torn with doubt. He knew that every step he took on this path could come at a great cost. But the despair and fear from his nightly dreams compelled him to accept. Old man Adel, with eyes gleaming, approached Arya and said, "To begin, you must spend a night in the house of the dead and confront them." Arya, with fear rooted deep within him, returned to the house of the dead. This time, he was to stay until dawn. As night fell, whispers and indistinct murmurs rose from the walls. Arya felt invisible gazes watching him, and every shadow could be an entity from another world. In the middle of the night, Arya realized that the walls were not just whispering, but also moving. It was as if the house was breathing. He began to see faces emerging from the walls, faces with empty stares and open mouths, as if trying to say something. Arya, with terror growing every moment, understood that these faces were the souls of those trapped in the house. When morning came, Arya, with eyes full of fear and a trembling body, made his way back to old man Adel's house. He told the old man what he had seen and felt. Old man Adel, with a deep and knowing look, told Arya, "You are not the only one who has experienced this. This house is a gateway to a world beyond our understanding, and you must find the key that will close this gate." Arya, with the key that old man Adel had given him, returned to the house of the dead. The key, made of an unknown and cold material, trembled in Arya's hands. As he moved towards the entrance of the house, a cold and unpleasant wind blew through the cracks of the door onto his face. With the doubt in his heart, Arya inserted the key into the lock and opened the door. Inside the house, absolute darkness reigned. Using the flashlight he had brought, Arya found his way through the empty rooms and endless corridors. The whispers and murmurs continued, but this time they were more intense. Arya felt something in the darkness approaching him. Suddenly his flashlight went out, and Arya was trapped in complete darkness. He heard the sound of heavy and slow breathing coming from behind him. When he turned around, he saw nothing, but he felt warm breath on his neck. Arya, with terror taking root within him, began to run. He moved from corridor to corridor, but every door he opened only led to another room filled with lifeless faces and strange objects. In one of the rooms, Arya came across a painting with the image of a face with a fixed stare and an open mouth, as if a silent scream was trapped inside. Arya, with growing fear, realized that the eyes of the painting were following him. He screamed and ran towards the exit, but each time he reached a door, he found himself in another room. Arya, with a heart pounding in his chest, was searching for a way out of the house of the dead. He knew he had to place the key somewhere to close the gateway between the world of the dead and the living. But the house, with every move he made, changed, and corridors and rooms swapped places with each other. At one moment, Arya reached a room where a large mirror stood. In his reflection in the mirror, he saw another face. A face with a fixed stare and an open mouth, as if a silent scream was trapped inside. Arya, with growing fear, realized that this face was not his own, but that of someone who had perished in the same house years ago. Arya, with courage from an unknown source, threw the key towards the mirror. The key struck the mirror and shattered it. With the breaking of the mirror, a brilliant light burst forth, illuminating the entire house. The whispers and murmurs were silenced forever, and the trapped souls, one after another, left the house in peace. Arya, gasping for breath, ran out of the house. When he reached the outside, the sun was rising, and its light broke the darkness of the night. Arya returned to Old Man Adele's house and told him everything. The old man, with a mysterious smile, looked at Arya and said, "Your work is not done, Arya. Now, you must be the guardian of the gateway, so that others do not suffer your fate." Arya, understanding that a great responsibility had been placed upon him, accepted. He was now the guardian of the gateway between two worlds, and knew he had to remain vigilant and alert